everybody. I have my hair pulled back. It's probably got lots of hanging things, but I needed it off of my neck. So happy Mother's Day to everyone out there who is a mom or who has a mom that they're celebrating today. I am sore today, and so I've been a little bit not in the mom mood today, so my kids have been warned and are in bed, so it's good. Because we all get to have those days. I slept on my neck funny, so my whole upper body is sore. Hi Kayla. Happy Mother's Day, sister. I hope you got to spend some time with your sweet babe today. So, I didn't do much planning for tonight's card, unfortunately, because I barely didn't even finish yesterday's card. Thank you. Until like 10:30 last night, and I'm still not done posting it to my blog yet, so I'm a little bit behind as far as my A Card a Day in May is going. So I still have been making a card a day, I just haven't been posting it exactly on that day. So I have not done today's card, and so we're gonna do it kind of on the fly. So I wanted to use this really pretty, oh my goodness, Miles, I'm so excited you're watching it. That'll be so fun. I'm going to use this really fun stamp set that is retiring. It is one of, it was a celebration, or not celebration, but an occasions catalog like last January. So not this past one, but in 2017 in January, this one was in the catalog, and that was one of the first sets that I got, and so I wanted to use that set tonight. So enjoy your Sound of Music. That sounds wonderful, and you probably will make me want to watch it when I'm done on my live. So I haven't watched that movie in ages, and actually one of my friends, they have some sleepovers in their living room sometimes, my friend Lori, and her girls picked that movie to watch last night because they know that their mama loves it so much. So I thought that was really fun too. So it's interesting that you are watching the same one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the biggest stamp, and I'll flip the camera around here in a second, but I am going to use the colors kind of inspired by this beautiful designer series paper that is retiring. This month I'm just, instead of pulling out stuff that I was able to order on the pre-order, which I might here and there, there are a few things that I was able to get that I am super excited about, which is, one of them is this. It is the Simple Chamois, or Simply Chamois, and it is one of those things that you can kind of, hi Mandy, I hope you were able to get the yucky slime out of your hair. It was funny watching Jeff. So this Simply Chamois is super fun because I can put it next to my my new Stamparatus, and I can use this. You just wet it down and then wring all the water out of it so that it's just barely a little bit damp, and you can use it to clean your stamps off with it without having to take them off of the mat or use the Stampin' Scrub, and you just use water. So it's gonna get all kinds of grimy and gross, but it's gonna be so fun. So tonight I'm really excited because I'm going to use this stamp and I'm going to emboss it, so you'll get to see my heat gun and what that looks like. But I'm going to emboss it with gold because I love this fancy paper, and it is called Painted with Love, and it is only available while supplies last. So in the month of May, while I'm doing a card a day in May, I thought I would focus on all of my favorite things that are being retired and are not going to be sold anymore in the catalog. And so there's just tons. There's tons that I loved. And so instead of focusing on new things that you can't get yet until June, I'm focusing on the things that I really love that you can get right now. So it'll be super fun, and I haven't done embossing in a while, so it'll be interesting getting to show that to you. I'm hoping that my my plugins are all ready to go because I have not prepped anything. So it'll all be fly by the seat of my pants. So I haven't even pulled anything out, but so I'm going to use that. And then I was trying to think of something else. Oh, I thought I would show you the card that I made for yesterday that is not posted on my blog yet, but this is the one I did yesterday. And so if you remember, I am taking one thing that I made in this card, and I am using it in today's card. So the thing that I'm using from this card is I'm going to use this ink pad. So I'm going to be using this with a blender pen, which I think I've shown before, but you get a box of 3, and I'm pretty sure they're $8. But you can just use them and use them and use them until they dry. So I've had this set of 3 for longer than a year, and it still works. But you can use them with any ink color that you have. So if you don't want to invest in the marker sets or anything like that, you can totally just buy these blender pens and use them with the ink colors that you already have. So that is what I'm using from yesterday's card in today's card. So the color will be carried over, and then we'll see what I do for tomorrow. I haven't even thought that far ahead. So we are going to be using some rich razzleberry, which is the ink that we're going to use. We will be using the cardstock, and then it coordinates with this really pretty designer series paper. So that is what we're going to use for tonight, and we are going to just jump right in. So I'm going to flip you around, I'm going to cover you up, and then hopefully I won't turn you off in the process, and we will get all set up here. I'm really sorry that I'm moving you all kinds of crazy, because I did not move my tripod anywhere. So we're going to flip. Okay, we're going to hope it holds. And then I'm going to turn on, oh, my light's probably going to bother with that fancy paper. Hi, Mama. Happy Mother's Day again. I'm going to turn on my computer and mute the sound so that I can watch comments since it's above me. Oh, so sorry. Let's see. So we are going to, there we go. Found it. So that way I can see any comments that we've got here. Okay, so we're going to make our card with that pretty stamp right there. And I'm going to look and get out my E block. It's the clear block E. I hope it's not blurry. I might move my light to a little bit better of a spot and see if it changes if I do it on that side. We'll see if that works better, if that fixes the problem. So I'll move my cutter here. So we'll put our stamp on our block, and I have not even cut down a smaller piece of paper yet or anything. So we're just gonna do this together. And I feel like I'm frozen on here. So if it looks okay, there we go. There's movement. Awesome. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our, paper to, and I just got a new blade for my cutter, so I'm super excited about that. I won't have any more of those little ratty sides. Like, I don't even know if you can see that, but that's a coarse side and that's a clean side, and I needed a new blade so bad. So I'm very excited that that was a part of my pre-order that I ordered. I was very much needing one. So I'm going to cut this down because it's just going to take over the background. And actually, I'm not really wanting it to have a ton of the purple color in it, the rich raspberry color. So I'm going to use the bottom half because it just is not going to have tons of purple. And then what we are going to do is I'm going to take off a little bit of the side too. We'll do it at 4. And then we might even use a second color to go just a teeny border behind it. So what else have you done today? I think Kayla's the one that's still with us. I can't see who's still on. So if you're still on, you can tell me because it doesn't tell me who's still here. We got home from church at about 2. It was like 1:45, I guess. After the cleaning up of the slime and grabbing dinner or lunch on the way home. Okay, let me find some. I'm gonna see if I can find some Calypso coral paper, maybe. That peachy color. And use that in our background there. We'll see if I can find it, is the problem. I have a new system over here, and I got a new shelf. Well, new to me. I got it at a garage sale. Sorry, my puppy's noisy at the moment. So here, we'll use that Calypso coral around the back, and that'll be really pretty. So we're going to use this almost to fit the whole page. Not quite. And then we're going to do it at 4. There too. Okay. So we cut that at not quite 5.5 by not quite 4 1/4, like in the middle. Excuse me. So that's what we're going to use as our little frame there around that, just to add a little bit more color there. And I think I might even use, this might be really fun. We have some new velvet ribbon that is that same rich raspberry color. And this is actually in the Share What You Love suite that is available early for customers and demonstrators. I was able to order from that suite in April for a little bit. I think it was like halfway through April we got to order. And so we, as demonstrators, were able to get some items from the suite to test them out and see what we could make with them and all that, but just a couple weeks early. And then they released it at the beginning of May. They're releasing it in 3 different bundles, and I have posted about that one on my blog, and I can share that link later. So we're going to use the shimmery white cardstock to do our embossing on, and so I'm going to cut it down for us to do that. Because I really, with the embossing that we're going to do, and then we're going to do some work with the blender pen, kind of like watercoloring. I feel like the sparkle and shimmer in the cardstock is going to come out a lot more in that with this paper rather than the plain Whisper White. So we are going to cut it down, and I'm just going to take my stamp, because I don't want it too much bigger than the stamp, so I'm going to use my stamp as a guide. And it looks like this. 4 3/4 is going to be just wide enough with that. And I'll set that extra paper aside. And then we are going to go, yeah, that'll be plenty. And it's probably going to be 2 3/4 other way. So that is good with that. And so then I'm going to set my cutting board over, and I'm going to take off this dirty piece, and I'm going to use it for my embossing powder when we are embossing here. So we're going to put this down here, and I'm going to use my clear block E for my stamp. I'm going to get my Versamark, my watermark pad. Oh, that's probably why he was coming under the table, because I have his spot trapped. He can't reach it. Okay, so I'm going to use my Versamark watermark stamp pad. This Versamark has lasted me forever, and it is just it's a watermark stamp, so it's going to be clear, but it's a little bit more sticky. So it stays wet longer, and you can, it gives you a little bit more time to get your embossing powder attached or on it. And I wish I would have dug that out, because that is glitter. I don't really want glitter. There's the powder. I don't want it to be like too taken over. So this is the Stampin' Emboss powder that we're going to use today for our card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take our shimmery white. Ty, go in, go in, go in, go back. You're kind of taking over. I don't want you there. Okay, go. So sorry. So we are going to take our Versamark, and I got a little bit of Brusho on mine, but it's not going to stain our stamp at all. So what I do is I flip it upside down, and I just make sure that all of the image is colored a little bit darker, so you can kind of see where it's glossy. Just making sure I haven't missed anywhere. I'm sorry if that's knocking you all over the place. And then I put the lid back on it, because pretty soon when we pull our powder out is when it's going to get messy. And I've got my heat gun over here to the side all ready to go. So we're going to, I'm going to try not to get my head in the shot. We're going to stamp that right down in the middle. And I'm just going to push my pressure down and make sure that my ink has had time to all get onto my cardstock here, so that it's gonna be just like that. And you can kind of see, we'll see, there we go, you can kind of see it on that one, but you'll really be able to see it when we put our, and I totally forgot to use my embossing buddy, which helps with the static, and it helps with, like, if my stamp was to get around the edge, it would help with just getting all these extra, like, tiny little bits. You probably can't even see that very good, but there's some tiny little bits there and in the corner, and there's a little bit on the edges there. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to put my powder back in my container. And so the reason that I use this is so that I can pour it back into my little container and then make a mess. So the mess is going to happen regardless. Oh yeah, the little paintbrush would be a great idea. Hi, Christy. I didn't even see you pop in. All right, so I'm gonna try to unplug my Alexa really fast, because she's attached to the same cord. So I'm sorry if it starts talking randomly if I plug it back in. Okay, so we are going to plug in my heat tool, and I'm going to stand up so that I can show this really cool. And it's probably not recommended that you use your hand to hold this, but it's okay. I've done it before. So I'm turning it on to the highest setting. I rarely use the first one, but I'm just going to make sure it's heating up. I used to have a heat tool that was not a Stampin' Up! Brand, one that I got at Hobby Lobby on a deal. My sister and I actually got it together. So I'm going to try to hold it up so that you can see the embossing happening. And then just let it do its work. I'm sorry if it's blurry, if I'm too close. You can kind of see it. It's such a fun thing to watch. But I will tell you that that Hobby Lobby heat tool that I had is nothing compared to the one that I got from Stampin' Up! It was worth every penny that I spent on it. So that is the embossed, beautiful, beautiful image on our shimmery white paper. I'm super happy with how that came out. I'm sorry if it went out of focus here and there. Great. Good to see that you can see the change. Okay, so now we are going to, I'm going to just clean off my stamp really, really quick using my Stampin' Mist and my really, really old Stampin' cleaner pad. Like this is maybe, oh goodness, I may have even got this all the way back in, okay, it might be like 2004, because I know it was before Cadence was born, so it could be that long ago. And so this is much smaller than the one that they sell now, and one of these days I will stop looking at the things that I don't have that are new or old or whatever, and I'll think of the thing to improve what I have already. But right now, all I can think of is the sets that I don't have that are retiring that I really, really want, and new things that are on the pre-order that I'm allowed to get, and that's all I can think about. But my budget is much tighter because I want to go to Florida in November. So what I'm doing is I'm taking our Stampin' Pad, and now this is the old style that we have in the catalog right now until the end of the month. And then I will show you the new ink pad. So that's the difference in size of the new ones versus the old ones. They are thinner, they're a bit smaller, but the ink themselves I don't think is that different. Here, I'll show you. So you just flip up, and I haven't used them very much, so they're a little bit sticky. So I've been told that the more you use them, the easier they get to open. So we're going to use this as an example, and I've already used that for a little bit of watercoloring. So the old pads you had to like push forward and kind of flip and slide. But these ones, all you do, I'm going to close it back up again. All you do is kind of flip it up like an old makeup brush, like a compact used to be, and then you slide it forward and snap like that. And so when you're closing it, it's just literally like folding it back up. So that is the difference, but the size is almost as big. So you're really not losing a lot as far as the ink goes. And what they've done is, I'm going to show you with the Rich Razzelberry, you can see the little like bubbly things on this ink pad, and this I've had less than a year. So the reason, or one of the reasons, I'm sure there are many more, that they are doing these new pads is that they have created a defoamer in their ink pads and in the re-inkers that they're using, where they will not get those harsh, like bubbly things in their ink pads. And so I'm so excited. I love the new ones. And they are really, like, I'm sure once I use this, it's going to slide way easier, but you just snap it closed and then it's good. So We're going to use the Rich Razzleberry color, and so I'm going to close it up and smush it on the bottom here where the ink is touching, just like that. And we're going to use my blender pen. I'll probably pull out, I might use a little bit of Old Olive, which is my favorite green, my favorite. I was so excited that they are not getting rid of my favorite color. So one thing that I love about the embossing with these colors is that, I'm going to show you here really quick, is that I can just take a tissue when I go over it, and the ink will come off of the gold. So the gold will stay, and it won't like stay on top of it. So I can color over the gold and go into the rest of the flower, and I can go, I don't have to like stay in the lines. I don't have to be super careful where I'm coloring to stay inside of the lines. That I can just kind of do, I want to stay of course inside of the lines when I'm going closer to the edge, of course, but when I'm doing this bottom middle part, I don't have to be quite as careful where I'm going. And so I'll just kind of fill in that color out. And I did not practice this card, so I really have absolutely no idea how this is going to come out, if I'm even going to like it, but that's just a part of being creative and sharing these things with everybody, that sometimes you get to kind of see my mistakes as I'm going. If you didn't try out these things, then sometimes we would never know and get some of the creations that we come up with. So that's a part of it. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to try things and them not work the way you really wanted them to. And so I love that. It almost brings some freedom to some of the OCD things that I feel sometimes. I don't know if anybody else has that, but a little bit of that OCD for crafty people could probably drive them crazy, because they would probably want it all to be perfect. And you know what? My life is not perfect, so I'm sure that there are other people that need to hear that too. So what I am doing here is I'm trying to do it a little bit more dark toward the base of the petal, and kind of fade it out as I'm going. So I might add a little bit of Wink of Stella to mix it up a little bit. The base of the petals, and moving up with the blender pen. And so you see that as I'm brushing it, it gets lighter when I'm pulling the color up. And so I'm going to use my scratch paper that we had for our embossing, just to get a little bit of a fresh brush. There were a couple of those little things that I wanted to get off of my brush because they were holding on for dear life. So, but I love this Rich Razzleberry color. I'm so excited that it is staying. I think I was telling you my Old Olive, I was so worried that this was going to be the year, because that color has been in there since I started following Stampin' Up, or started watching them and liking them. That was back in 2003 when I started going to a stamp club. When my husband was in college, we had a friend at church that was a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and she isn't anymore, but I've still been in contact with her a little bit since then. But she had a club, a stamp club going on that was called Stampaholics Anonymous. And that name has always stuck with me. I might even turn it into one for myself. But she just had such a fun club. And what we would do is we would come together and we each had to, it was super reasonably priced, which was perfect for poor college students that just liked hanging out with friends. So my friend and I actually split our membership into that club, and so it was a monthly club, and we paid $15 to go to this club every month, and whatever we could spend that $15 on product of our own, so we got to keep it. So it was just like we were just investing in the stuff that we took home. We weren't even really paying for what we were doing, so it was super, super reasonably priced for us. And so we would take turns. That's how poor we were. We would take turns going to this club, and then we would we started our little stamping hobby based off of that club. And so every month we would pay our $15 or a little bit more if our budget could handle it at that time. It didn't often handle it very well, but sometimes we could save our little pennies to get extra things. And so Old Olive was one of my very, very first. I might even have it still. I'm not sure if I put it away somewhere else, but I still have my very first ink pad that I ever bought from Stampin' Up, and it was Old Olive. Now this is the new one. I actually got it not this last April, but the April before it, my very, very first on stage that I ever went to. It was one of the colors that we used in one of our projects, and so at the end of the day when we were divvying up who got to take what home, that was the first thing I chose. Even though I already had that color, I knew that the new one would be way, way better than the one that I'd been using for all of those years. So I was super excited to get a new Old Olive. So when they talked about doing a color revamp in the new catalog, I was so worried that my Old Olive was going to be retired and never come back, but it's still there. It's still going strong. And a fun thing, one of my favorite in colors from a couple years ago, Mossy Meadow, is actually in the new set of colors. And so I got to pull out my color of Mossy Meadow that I had set aside and tried not to use, because I really try to just use current Stampin' Up product, because if I show you things that you can't get, what fun is that? So my goal is to just show you current product in case something catches your eye that you want to add to your collection, just like I did. So that is my goal with you guys, to stay current. So when all of these beautiful things like this stamp set and this designer series paper, at the end of the month, or actually some of this stuff, there's some papers that I still have paper that is already gone. They've already sold out of it. And so I've pulled it out of my stash, and I have left I've been checking the inventory list, and actually I didn't check it right before, so I'm hoping that this paper is not gone, because I did not check. I'm so sorry. I've been trying to check before I post my card a day in May, and every time I come live, I want to make sure that I'm using things that you can order. I made a little bit of an exception to that on Friday when I did my scrapbook layout and then that card that matched, because I used our Stampin' Blends that have been on back order for like 2 months. And it's been like torture for me, because if you can't buy it, I don't want to use it. But I miss them so much because they're so awesome. And they really, really do make coloring so much easier. I mean, this blender pen is great, and I love that I can use it with any of the colors of ink. But I will tell you that the Stampin' Blends, they color more smooth than I believe any other marker that I have ever used. And the fact that you can blend things, I mean, the blending that it is that I'm attempting here is nothing compared to what it would be if I was using our Stampin' Blends. It would be amazing. And I might even show you a comparison at the end, just because it's just worth it. They're so good. They will be back in stock, aside from the, I think, one color that is retiring out of our Stampin' Blends collection. They will be back at the beginning of June. Some of them are even coming back within the next week. But we kind of are on a basis of we won't kind of know until they actually show up. Because I know that Stampin' Up! Is kind of waiting on a shipment of them. And so they've taken them off of our websites so that they're not teasing people with thinking that they're coming back and them not being back yet. So I'm thankful that they kind of help us in that way. Okay. They help us out in that way so that we don't have lots of disappointed customers wishing that they could have it. So I just did, I don't think I want to cut it out, but maybe I will. I'll do a little bit of fussy cutting. I almost feel like I need to hide when I say that because my Stampin' Up! Team leader doesn't like that word, that phrase. And so every time I say it, I'm like, is she watching? Is she listening? Not that she is or ever would listen to one of my lives, but I just always think of her when I say it. Like, is this a word that, because it's almost like it's a cuss word to her. She just really doesn't like it. She would rather say hand cutting than use that phrase. And so I get a kick out of it every time I think about her. So I'm just going to do like a rough one, and then maybe put a little bit of rich razzleberry behind it. It looks very pinkish, this rich razzleberry. So I know that this designer series paper has a little bit more of the fresh fig purple color in it rather than the rich razzleberry, but there are still shades of the rich razzleberry, and I really just wanted the gold embossing powder to go with the gold flakes in this beautiful paper. Just kind of pull that out. So that's really what I was going for when I chose that paper, because there's just something fun about using that gold embossing powder with watercoloring with the blender pen or with the Stampin' Blends if we were using those. That really it just makes coloring so much more fun using that embossed image that you get from that stamp set. And it really doesn't take a ton of time. And so you get such a pretty effect for not a ton of work, which I love. Because 9 times out of 10, the only time that I am crafting is at this time of night after I put my kids to bed. And usually, well, lately my hubby's been doing homework while I do my little crafting time because he's taking classes to get his master's degree, and so he's just doing one class at a time, and I'm so thankful because I cannot imagine if he were doing more than one at a time, because the amount of time that he puts into that on top of his full-time job and having a family, it is seriously something that takes so much time. And you really have to give up and sacrifice a lot of things to do it well. And so I'm very thankful for him and thankful for the work that he is doing to put in to furthering his education. And he really does love what he's learning. But there's just a point where most of the work is fun. But when you get to the paper and you are having to work on that, that's what he did almost all day on Saturday. And it just wears on him in a different way. So a day that would probably bring him a little bit more relaxation normally was taken up by filling his brain, and his brain was so tired today after church, after preaching, that he is out playing board games with his buddies. So it is a very, very much needed Sunday night break for him, and he has Mondays off, so that is really nice too. But I'm very thankful for the work that he does, and that he doesn't often complain about the school part either, so that really helps. So we are just trimming down our flower here. And if anybody has any questions about anything I've talked about tonight, don't hesitate to send me a message or just comment on this post. I'm going to try. Last week it was a little bit easier once nobody was at my house. I tried to load the video or download the video onto YouTube during Monday, but it's when Jeff is home and he was playing a video game, and so the bandwidth was just stolen by his game, and so he was taking up all we had. And so it just would not load and would not load. And so I was very happy to do it the other night when nobody was using the internet. And so it was much, much easier. Okay, so let me see if I do a small strip and we do that in a corner maybe. And I might even have some metallic doilies left. That would be fun to put behind it. I'm not sure who's still with us, but maybe we'll use some of these too. I'm gonna go through my little retirement stash over here. I put them all in a box. Oh, I do have some. Awesome. So when we get the retired list or the retiring list, I like to go through all of my current Stampin' Up! Product, and I like to pull out, oh, I'm so sorry, I just bonked my light. I like to pull out our list and then my catalog, and I mark up my catalog so that I know what out of my catalog is, actually we're going to go to that one. What out of my catalog is staying and what is going. And I'm going to do this strip at 1.5. Because I don't need it to be super big. Because I think I'm actually going to use that fun Rich Razzleberry Velvet ribbon. And so as we're putting this together, I'm going to set my base aside. I'm going to use my Snail Adhesive to put on the back of here. Sticking. And so since we just have the teeniest little border with this, we're going to do it just like that. And then we're going to put this on that side there. And then we're going to put one of these adorable doilies that are retiring. I'm telling you, I love to use up my retired goodies because once they're gone, they're gone. And so I'm super sad when they go, but I'm telling you that the amount of newbies that are coming into this catalog, you will barely even know that they were ever here because they are some amazing. I'm going to go all the way to cover up that corner because it covers up that darker fresh fig color, and I feel like that helps the rich raspberry color to come out a lot more. So that is kind of where I'm going with this card. And then we might use some of these little gold embellishments. I'm pretty sure the metallic enamel shapes are not sold out yet. I'm pretty sure. So I will try to post if they are, just so that you don't aren't looking for them and then they're gone. So I'm going to take my doily and put a little bit of snail on the back and kind of put it where there's a little bit where you can see both of those colors on the side. And then I think I would like to also use some metallic thread. If I have any, there it is. I like to put the metallic thread. Sorry, I had an alert going off on my phone. I hope it wasn't bothering you guys. I like to put some metallic thread just to kind of give a little bit of texture to my image just behind it. So I'm just going to wrap this metallic thread around my hands, and I like to kind of gather it where both of the cut marks are and just set it there. And then I take the teeniest little, I do not have very much of that Scotch tape left. I just took that from where I was attaching it on its little spool here, but I'm out, and so it is on my grocery list, on my shopping list, and I need to really not forget next time. So now what I want to do is I'm going to take our Stampin Dimensionals, which I just had over here. Hopefully I can find them. And I'm going to pop up our embossed flower image. And then I might take our clear Wink of Stella after I have popped it up, just to kind of move some color together and clean it up just a little bit. And this is probably way more dimensionals than I needed to use, but I love them, and I'm okay getting them when I need them, just so that I can use them the way that I want to. So maybe after I finish this card tonight, I can do one for tomorrow so I'm not late. So before I pop that up, I'm going to take my Snail Adhesive again and put it on this layer here, the base layer, and pop that up on my base here. Stick that on, and you see how my card is still open. I don't always do it that way, but sometimes I do. So now we are going to just make sure that we're covering up where we put that tape. So that is so pretty. I love it. So now we are going to take some of these little enamel dots. I hardly ever use my scissors. I usually will use my paper piercer or fingernails. Fingernails work too. And I'm probably going to do 3 because I don't really like to do things in even numbers. But that is our finished card. And you can see the odd coloring. Hey, Meg! If you're still here, my phone's telling me you're here. So I'm going to take my clear Wink of Stella and just kind of squeeze a little bit to see if it'll go in. It's probably almost gone. I don't even think I have hardly any left. There we go. There's a little bit. So we're going to take our Wink of Stella and just kind of spread the color around just to give it a little bit more shimmer, to bring out that glimmer or shimmer paper. And like I said, I really did not have any sort of plan coming into tonight. I just knew that I kind of wanted to use this stamp set. Wasn't really sure what designer series paper I wanted to use, But I did know what I was going to use of yesterday's card, which is the Rich Razzelberry Ink Pad, which I used for watercoloring. So that is something different than what I used it for yesterday. So that is our card for tonight. So I'm glad you were here, and I hope you enjoyed watching. And if you liked any of the products that I used tonight, I will post a product list on my blog. I'm going to work on that now, actually. So hopefully by tomorrow morning, you can see what numbers I used from our products that are retiring or are carrying over. And if you are interested in ordering any of those, there will also be a link for my website on my blog. I'm also going to post the link when I post this video to YouTube. Hopefully either tonight or tomorrow that'll get done, depending on how fast I can do it before Jeff gets home. Otherwise, there will be a link on this Facebook page. I have a link to my Stampin' Up! Store. So I will have all that information available, and I will see you next Sunday. Yes, I will. I'm going to go to my brother's graduation from college, and I'm not taking anyone with me. So I get to just go and meet up with my mom and my dad and my brother and his wife and his little girl. So I'm really proud of him, and I'm excited that I get to get away for a little bit to go to his graduation. So I don't get to see them very often, and college is a big deal, especially because I didn't finish college. So any of my siblings that managed to get that far and finish, I just am even more proud of them. So I'm super excited that I get to go. So I will hopefully have another fun card to do with you next Sunday. I will not be getting home until Saturday evening, so it may be a bit of a mess like today, but it'll be fun. And so I will see you next Sunday at 8:30. If you're coming in late, you can totally catch the replay. I'm going to leave it up so that you can watch along with me. And I hope that if any of you are inspired, will share your projects with me. I love that. So everybody have a great week, and I will see you soon.